Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. We have several things going on. In fact, we have Dr. Elizabeth Townsend coming on here shortly, just after the 12 o'clock hour here Mountain Standard Time. But I wanted to give away some prizes. Last week we said we asked questions, and we had both the Facebook and the YouTube platforms, and they were running at a little bit of a different speed. So we are giving away 2 winners, one on each platform. So thank you for joining us. The question I have that I want to throw over to Mark and Carla, what is the question we should ask so that we can get this up there and get them some prizes?
You do?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. For the first person who can remember what the owner's wife's name is, or the owner themselves, so as the couple. So if you can remember that name or those names, that'd be great.
That's a doozy.
Yep, Lexi and Stacy. So we're going to throw this one on. Make sure to email sales, S-A-L-E-S, sales@graceframe.com in order to receive your reward there. But let's go ahead, Mark and Carla, let's go ahead and spin the wheel and
her
see
name
what
is
she's
Lori,
winning.
and that's how you won. Grace is Jim's mom, Jim and Lori's mom and mom-in-law. So
there you go. All right. Here we go. The linear sharpener.
It's a great
fantastic.
gift.
Linear sharpener. Yes. So the linear sharpener is one of 2 sharpeners that we currently carry. This is linear or manual sharpener. It is perfect for all your sharpening needs, especially when you have that dull blade. So this actually has a diamond stone on the one side. You do, it does both, it sharpens one side of your blade and you rotate it over. So perfect for your tabletop as you're quilting. You simply leave that on your tabletop and you can go from sharpening to your cutting. So that's wonderful.
It works great too. You're going to love that.
That's awesome right there.
All right, so I'm going to come back on here. It looks like we do have a winner 2 on Facebook here, Stacy Laird, Sundgren. Thank you again for watching and streaming with us. So we got a winner. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel and see what Stacy's winner of.
Oh, awesome.
For cutter, 45. So let's grab that out. Let's talk about the 45 cutter.
All right, so this wonderful cutter works with our rulers, and the track right here on the back is the guide. And then if you don't have a ruler, which I would like to give away a combo, it works as well with other rulers. And so you just take the guide off right there. It's got the bent handle, so it's ergonomic. And once you start using this, you won't want to go back to a straight cutter because it is awesome. It feels comfortable in the hand and it doesn't tire out your wrists, because we as quilters know we use our wrists in so many movements so often. And this eliminates or alleviates all that pain that you get. So you're going to love this.
That's awesome. And then this is such a premium gift. This retails for $32.95. So $33 is the retail of this. Right. So I mean, that's a good price. That's a great price. Congratulations on that one, Stacy. So Carla.
Yes.
Nathan mentioned earlier the packed show that we have.
Oh, right? Yes. Today is a busy day. And you're going to be seeing lots of wonderful information about quilting.
We're actually going to have later, you're going to see this room, we're going to have a big frame and a small frame with 6 machines. We'll have 6 machines in here, Carla, that we'll talk about. And
pretty impressive.
So stay tuned for that, because we're going to demonstrate and talk again like we did last one, but this will be more in depth with the product. Again, 6 machines that we'll have, and I mean, that's a lot of talking. So we got to make sure we drink up on our water so we don't get cotton mouth, because we're going to do a lot of talking on this one.
We'll chew some gum too. Yes. And we're going to stay as far apart as we can for our social distancing.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate, again, everybody streaming us. We are going to be inviting in Dr. Elizabeth Townsend is joining us right now, and we'll be shortly being able to get some information over to her, and we'll have her tell some stories about part of her experience. While we're doing this, before we introduce her, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read her bio for everybody so that we can kind of read some of that. And it looks like she's ready to go, but I wanted to talk briefly about this. So let me bring this up and put this in front of us so that we can see. Let's go ahead and add this, and then I'm going to go to her bio for us for just a minute here to read a little bit about her. And again, we're excited to have her here with us. In fact, let me go ahead and we're going to bring her on in. I have you joined with us, Dr. Townsend. I just thought maybe before we get into this, it's been an amazing journey. I know that I'm trying to think of how many years ago I had a chance to be introduced to you there, Dr. Townsend, with it. But I thought before we do so, and you can share with us all your history. She has a lot of different titles, obviously amongst one of those, doctor, and so many other wonderful things. I'm just going to briefly read some of this biography. You can see this in front of you as well. But she, Elizabeth Townsend Gard, is the director of the Tulane Center for IP, Media, and Culture. She specializes in intellectual property law, including copyright, trademark, and comparative intellectual property. And there's a lot of things that go into this. I was reading through this going like, boy, I'm wondering just how much school you have to go through in order to have all this information and this knowledge with you. It's pretty impressive. So intellectual property, entrepreneurship, including social entrepreneurship, solopreneurs, and handcraft entrepreneurs. She teaches in Tulane's Masters of Jurisprudence in Labor and Employment Law program, where she focuses on the intersection of intellectual property within the context of employment law and business practices across the country. And kind of interesting, thinking, okay, here's an individual that kind of comes from part of the law and entrepreneur world. Why and what that maybe might that mean? Elizabeth, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
I'm very excited to be here. This is so much fun. This is like, how much fun can you have? It's so amazing. So I am super excited. The first thing, I don't know how many people are out there, but I want you to go and grab something you're proud of, a quilt, something you've made, and bring it back, because we're going to be using it as part of today's session. So a little bit of law school, a little bit of business school for the next hour or so. I'm a professor of law. That means I went to school for a long time, but it also means that I get to play and think about things, and that's what a law professor does. Today, we're going to be thinking about dreaming. So I really believe that if you're going to think about starting a business, which we're thinking about, or you have a business, you really need to take long walks and whatever way you dream. Think about things, dream, what do you feel like it? And all of our dreams are different. And when you think about our dreams, you have to also think about what your goals are. And everybody's goal is different. And so, I've been through a lot with entrepreneurship. I'm a reluctant entrepreneur. I didn't really want to be one. And I kept getting thrown into these sort of very dominant discourses that told me I had to do things a certain way. And I really don't believe that anymore. I think we can all dream and make our own road. And there's a few things along the way that we need to do to make sure that we're legal and our businesses will thrive. But I think we can all dream any way we want. This, of course, I made on the Grace frame, which I'm totally, Grace Company has been so good to my project and to me, and I feel like my dreams come true in some way because of Grace. So this was the font, and then this is one of the programs that is in there. So I wanted to include that. Okay. So grab something you're proud of and take a look at it. I'm not sure how we can do that. Maybe you can put it in the chat on Facebook. But you can start to post sort of things. Also, can you chat? You can put comments in here. I'm not sure if you can put images in, but tell me in the chat what you're proud of and describe it as we go. Okay. Okay, I'm having trouble with I don't usually use this way. Okay. So what are your long arm dreams? What are your quilting dreams? Can you add in the chat, start to talk about that? And I don't know if there's anyone at Grace that can start to read them out as well. So just think about what your long arm dreams are. I know with mine, I wanted to be really good at doing long arm. Like my goal was to be like one of those good ones. I also wanted to quilt for my community. I also I'm one of the long arm dealers, so selling them was really cool. And then my quilting dreams have changed over time. And so I think about sort of, we went to market. That was super awesome. We have a big community, right? So everybody's dreams are different. Maybe you want to be quilting for your, right, so making masks, right, exactly. Row by row quilts, that's right. Yeah, you want to quilt without all the pain. Okay, that's super great. So again, so what do we want to be? Who do we want to be? We have to start there in terms of understanding what we want to be doing. One of the questions I see a lot on Facebook groups and other spaces is, what the difference is between a hobby and a business. And I think a business, you usually are making some sort of money, income, but I think a hobbyist can be very aggressive. I'm an aggressive hobbyist. And I think businesses can be casual. So I think it's a spectrum. It's not necessarily, oh, I'm a hobbyist versus I'm a business person. And so I think we should sort of get rid of those labels in some way. Okay. So in the chat, what are your hobby goals? Do you have goals that are hobby, like using all my stash, or I want to quilt all my quilt tops? I like that. Yes. Maybe sell enough to make more fabric. Yes. Sell them to get more fabric. Right. Yes. All these things. Like, what are your dreams? My dream was to quilt every night. We'll talk a little bit more about me. I also wanted to experiment with every kind of form I could. I wanted to not feel comfortable quilting. I wanted to like push myself over and over again. And that part of that was getting a Longarm machine and learning it, and learning to free motion and ruler work and the automation. I wanted to do everything. Couching. I'm not that great at that, but I'm getting there. But my hobby goals, is win a major award. Love that. Make a dent in my kits. I like that too. That's really great. Okay. And then sometimes you want to start a business. How many of you want to start a business, and what kind, in the chat, what do you want to be doing in your business? Right. Oh, interesting. Okay. So, what do you want? What are your business dreams? Do you want to teach it to kids? Do you want to long arm for your community? Do you want to make a living off of it? What we're going to sort of see as we go is like what your dream is. Can be small, can be big. I've had big dreams. I've had tiny dreams. I've had ridiculous dreams. But trying to understand why you want to start a business helps you figure out what the legal and business issues are related to that business. So let's take a look and see what we have here. Custom embroidery and quilting. You had one before COVID. COVID really messed up. It's hard, right? We made a lot of masks. We had a lot of stress. It's hard to get back in that quilting groove. I totally get that. Yeah, so, and a lot of you probably think, well, maybe I can take in long arming so that I can cover the cost of my machine, which I think is a totally doable goal. And again, sort of thinking custom quilt is a business, right? We're also starting, I'll tell you a little bit more about me in just a second. I hate when people just talk all about themselves, so I thought we'd just dive in. I think we're starting an Etsy shop. So we're trying to figure out with our little project where people will buy things and how much we can keep our costs down so that there is a profit in quilting and Etsy, but that's for the spring. Okay, my approach. So we start with the dream. That's the approach. Think about what you want. Even as we're talking, write down your dreams. Think about what it is you want. Do you want to have a multi-million-dollar company? Do you have an invention that you think will change the world? Do you want just a little bit of spending money so that you can buy whatever you want to buy at the quilt shop? That was part of my dream, right? I wanted to buy whatever I wanted to buy, and I didn't want anyone telling me not to buy. Not that my husband does, but that kind of way. And I've more than exceeded our that goal. But I now am buying bolts of fabric instead of yards of fabric. My dreams have gotten bigger as my pocketbook has gotten bigger from the business. So lots of different kinds of dreams. Do you want to be teaching locally? Do you want to be teaching nationally? Do you want to enter your quilt designs in magazines? All of this is different, and it sort of relates to how the law, what you need to know about law and business to be able to do that. So if you're going to be working with magazines, you need to be able to read a contract and understand what that contract is. If you're long arming for individuals, you may want a contract in place to make sure that everybody's on the same page of how much it costs and what will happen if there's problems. And so we're going to look at that. Okay, so for whatever business you have, there are basic business things you need to know, right? How to start it, how to incorporate or become an LLC, how to grow your business, the role of social media. Like, are you going to be looking locally? Is your group on social media? What kind of social media? And then basic accounting and finances. The same is true for law, and that's really where I play. I mean, I play in basic business stuff because I make businesses and I have to understand how the businesses work. And so it's out of necessity. But my passion and my love is in the legal side of it. So choosing a legal form. An LLC is super easy, only one person. It costs maybe $100. You can do it at your state. Super, super, super easy. Getting an EIN number, all those basic things you need to do to start a business. Once you do that, you can then go on to other things. You're going to, as part of that legal form, you're also going to have to name your business. So it all kinds of comes together. And so if you're going to start to name your business, you have to say, well, is that name available? Could I get a trademark on it? Could I use it as a hashtag? And so you have to start to think about all these basic legal things together. You also start to think about, well, what am I going to be doing in this business? Am I using other people's copyrighted materials? Am I making my own? How important is that? And then are people coming into my house? Do I need additional business insurance? Is there any kind of liability that might happen? All of these questions happen kind of no matter what kind of business you have. So if your daughter wants to start a business, or your aunts, or your husband, these are all of these are sort of building your dream, is what I call it. Everybody has to do it. And it's not hard. This takes maybe, I don't know, maybe half an hour to do the legal form, but you have to get your EIN number. That's the government number from the IRS. The trademark stuff's a little more tricky. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's really fun too. So I really, if I was in front of you in a live, and I would have a pink tutu on and big pink glasses, to sort of say law is fun and not scary. These are all things that people act like they're so hard and so scary and like you better do this right. First, you can change things. Secondly, these are not hard. None of these are hard. I promise you, this is so easy. And so if you go to other business places and they start to make you scared, then it's just not the right place, because these are very simple things to do. Okay. All right, so me. So I am a law professor. I've been a law professor for about, like 14 years. So that means for me, I have a PhD in European history and a law degree and an LLM and a postdoc at London School of Economics. I have a lot of schooling to be a law professor. My approach to law is very hands-on. And so I did a lot of work and I became a full professor, which meant nobody's going to judge me anymore, which is super great. And I tell the story a lot. So I decided I wanted to do something and I focus on copyright. And so I decided I wanted to do something on quilting. And so, and if you know anything about law schools, there are lots of like men who have certain vision of sort of what law is. So I went to my very male proper dean and said, I want to quilt and I want to do copyright and learn about copyright. And I want you to buy me a really fancy sewing machine to do it. And he said, okay. So that was awesome. And then I contacted Quilts Inc. and went to Quilt Market that year. And there I met the Grace team. I was on my own and I kept hanging around their booth and they were so nice to me as I was sort of mesmerized by this amazing machine that I just thought was the most amazing thing. And so what happened from there is a couple of things. First, I realized that the law and business in quilting there's just so much of it and so interesting to study. Also, I started a podcast. I started interviewing people. We've interviewed, I don't know, over 300 people in the last 2.5 years on every topic imaginable. And so I started to really understand what the quilting industry was, where the pain points were, where the commonalities were, and it was varied. It was amazing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. There are people who quilt and are part of this business on every level. We have Grace, this big company that is very much kind and gentle and nice and smart. We have big, huge companies like Brother. You've got tons of solo companies, 1 or 2 people. We've got family companies like Leah Day's company, started out as just her, but now is her family. We have 4th generation families like Scott Fortunoff and the Stencil Company and others, where their whole family and other families are able to make a living off of what they do. We also have a lot of people doing part-time work in this, and I'm kind of amazed at that. So we have AccuQuilt that relies a lot on everyday quilters to make their samples, and magazines, which is a way to get into the business of submitting quilt ideas. We have inventors. We think about the rulers. You think about the Westerly Company. It is filled with creativity on every level. And so I stayed and I did a bunch of work and I kept quilting. And part of what I did is I quilted every night. So I've made like, I don't know, and I simple quilts, hard quilts, gypsy wife quilt, not my favorite, too much. And I also learned to longarm. And part of that was Grace, and Grace has been really great and worked with me. And it was been wonderful. I learned about copyright. I learned about all these things. We also started a Facebook group, which was amazing, and have been working on sort of understanding the role of law and creativity. So that's a little bit about me, probably more than you need to know. But I'm a super avid quilter, and I'm like really good at what I do in terms of copyright and entrepreneurship, and so those kind of blended. What happened was that we realized that not only was I starting to teach at national shows, which is great, but like these kinds of things now, what you're listening to now is really great, and you start to get knowledge, but it's not enough. Like you can't just go out and like, okay, I know how to start a business. So we in the summer with COVID, we did a copyright workshop, and it was awesome. We had 80 people, and we did it over 4 weeks, and it was great. And so we're really sort of focused on workshops and books and ways that you can do DIY legal and business, and learn that, and then also know when you need to get an attorney or accountant or something like that. So we've developed our philosophy over time. So right now we really sort of, what did the dream become? The dream became like I wanted to sew and learn about copyright and be part of a quilting community. My dream was really small. It was so small. And it turned into this really big thing, kind of life-changing. So we've done now we've only been writing books for 1 year, and I think we have made $50,000 on our books so far. And that's not even with a distributor, that's just us having the books. It's totally insane. So, and it's been great. So our book series, we really focus on trademark and copyright. We also have a patent book. We also have a really big book that explains IP that we use in my classes I teach at the university, but also is available for others. It's like 1,400 page book of like, if you really want to understand intellectual property. We also did the copyright workshop. So it's been really fun and interesting to be teaching quilters. And they're very different than law students. You actually want to be there, which is awesome. Law students often are just waiting for the class to be over. And we are moving forward. So we're doing a book on just what a longarm, which is really the business and legal issues that arise in longarming. Just want a contract and how to negotiate too. And just want to start building a creative business. So those are the books that we're going to be doing for this coming year for fall of 2021. It's been this amazing journey. So my dream was really small, and I just kept, any kind of time and opportunity came, I said yes. So grabbing opportunities, I'm really a big believer in. It doesn't mean just because someone asks you to do it, you can't say, well, I'll do that next year. Just do it. Just do it. Just jump. You can do it. You can do it. Like, you can just do it. It's all good. You can't wait. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the legal stuff. Any questions so far? I only have the, I don't have the Facebook. I don't know if the Facebook group is, any other questions? Good. Awesome. So in terms of what I have equipment-wise from Grace, I have a continuum frame with a 15R on it, and then we have a hoop frame with a 19 on it, and I love them both. I do very different things with them. We also have community and people come in and rent time, well, before COVID, and I do community quilting, and I trade. I don't sell my time yet. We make quilts that people can sell, like groups can sell or auction, and then I often trade. So I trade with my friends, my community. So, and that's kind of my business model right now, which is I trade them for fabric or tops or having my relatives stay at their Airbnb. Like, so I use it as sort of a very kind of trade kind of way, but that's just me. Okay. All right, so legal. So you want to start a business, super, super, super fun, super interesting. It's fun. It's totally fun. Don't let anybody make you think it's not. It's so much fun. Okay, so first you got to form a legal entity. Why? Because that keeps the liability from you. You're more legitimate. You can apply to go to Quilt Market if you've got if you're a business. You're just you can do wholesale. You can get wholesale on batting, all kinds of other things. You need to be a business to be serious about being a business, and that's by being a legal entity. You do that at the state level, and it's not hard at all. Forming an LLC, a solo LLC is the easiest way to go. It stays on, it does a pass-through, so it's part of your taxes. You don't even have to worry about that much. And as you grow, you work with accountants and other people to sort of figure out how to do what you're doing. Trademark your name. So I am that's my message for you today. If you think your business is going to be more than just like you and your friends, and you're not going to really do very much, and it's not going to be on the internet, and it's just local, that's good. But we live in an internet world, and so I think I think you should be registering your work at the federal level. It gives you lots of protection. It also helps you make sure that the big companies know that your name is being used as a business. So if you have, example, just want to quote. So we have a registered trademark, and it's not hard. We have a book that teaches you how to do that if you want to do it. You can also get someone. So there's a lot of places that will scam you. Be super careful with trademark. There's a lot of scamming out there, like a lot, because it's pretty easy to do and people act like it isn't. So if someone's telling you it's going to be $1,500 to do your trademark, say thanks. You'll pass. It's not hard. But trademarking your work is like a territory. It's like your house, your thing. So Just Want to Quilt has a trademark. And so if Moda's looking to say, well, we're going to name something new, if they do their due diligence and they're smart about it, they're going to go and look at the USPTO, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, their database, to make sure that there's a name that they can register. They've registered Jelly Roll. That's an example. There's lots of companies that register important. Park Tula Pink is registered. Social Justice Sewing Academy is registered. We help them. All kinds of companies register their works. And it's super important because it lets the world know that you hold that trademark. Also, if you use hashtags, if someone starts to use your hashtag, not just to describe how happy they are, I just want to quilt, but as a source identifier that it's their product, you can send them a cease and desist letter. So it's kind of like a title to a house. You need your house in order. And that's what a trademark is. And again, we do a ton of work on this. It's not very hard and it's fun. Once you learn how to do it, you can teach others to do it. You don't have to be a lawyer to register your own trademark. Okay. What else? Okay, contracts. So there's contracts for everything. And I think, we are just starting to work on this project. I think trademarks are super important, but I think contracts are also really, really important. That you know how to read a contract, you know when to argue and when not, how to negotiate a contract. There's different ways of negotiating. And so we've been working with fabric designers and pattern makers. It's mostly pattern makers who are negotiating with magazines on sort of what they need versus what the magazine needs. And so it's helpful for you to understand that both sides have certain needs and certain requirements, and do it in a way that it ends in a good contract. So that's one of the work that we're going to be looking at this year is, on all the work that I do comes, the law students also work on these projects, and they're very about teaching and learning and all that. So we're going to be doing Just Want a Contract in the spring with my IP and entrepreneurship class. Insurance and liability issues. So people come and use my machine all of the time. Well, not anymore because we don't let anybody in the house. But when we did let everybody in the house, we had people teaching them how to do it. We had friends doing it. We were doing charity quilts. It was fun. My teenager really hated the fact that there were always quilters in the house, but that was too bad. And I made everybody sign a waiver. So when they were using our machine, it's a very simple form, and I made sure that they recognized that they might get hurt, and that was on their own accord, that they weren't going to sue me or the school or anyone else involved if they were not careful. And it was really simple, and they all signed it. And for me, that made me feel better about having people using really aggressively big machines. But that's just one example. Another example would be like customers and who bears responsibility for that, and do you have extra insurance if something goes wrong, or what if you get sick? What's that situation? We had a lot of teachers be really confused by the force majeure clause when COVID happened, and a lot of the places were saying that they were not going to enforce, have them come to speak. And so it was very confusing. And again, with a little bit of contract knowledge, you can understand what's happening, right? Okay, so that's that's kind of the legal side of it. Forming a legal entity, super, 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 super easy. So easy, so very, very easy. Trademark, when you're thinking of your name, you should also be checking. We have a book just on trademark if you want to do it that way, or we can do it all kinds of ways. There's lots of ways online. But if you're thinking about it, you should be thinking about whether you can also register it. So we have a number of people who like have a name and then like 4 years later they decide, oh, I want to register it, and they can't because there's all these problems, and they could have known that night where they were thinking about it. My kid just started a business, an arts collective, and they wanted a name that was taken, and then they had another name, and it was a little bit, they had to change the spelling and they had to make it a little bit different, but they figured out what they wanted to do, and that was just brainstorming, and that was like kind of the fun part. So the name, thinking of your name and trademark all go together. Contracts, you think about contracts, you think about your customer, you are the drafter, then if there's a problem, it goes against you. Like if you're the drafter, then the courts are going to assume that you did it for your benefit, and so the customer gets the benefit of the doubt. Others draft it, say a publisher sends you a contract or a quilt show sends you a contract. The reverse is true. You're also sort of trying to understand what you need. A contract is two things. It helps you identify the relationship that you have, and then also it helps you to understand what happens if it goes wrong. And we've had we have another company called Limited Times that does this ridiculous software program that we made. And so we work with big institutions, Library of Congress, Harvard, all these other big companies. And so one of them, one university that we were working with, we negotiated for like over 1.5 years on this contract, and it was like everything that possibly could go wrong. And I just felt so depressed by the end. And my husband, who is with me in this company, was like, no, like we're just getting it all. It's like look, like if you had a contract like this, like not a prenup, but like a contract that's like, I promise to do the dishes, but if I don't do the dishes, I promise that this. So like it's just working all the problems out before it happens. And so you have to think about it that way. Any question? How are things going over here in the chat? I haven't been paying attention. Right, so interested to know about copyright laws. And okay, so copyright. So all those things that you just had, that you pulled, that I can't see because we're not on Zoom, and I don't think there's any way for me to see your images. So I'm sure they're super beautiful, and I wish I could see them. Maybe you can post them in Facebook and I'll comment later on it. What we do in the copyright workshop, and I think that any person who is a creative should be taking a copyright workshop from the beginning, because I have to know the law that you are enacting and that you're working in. Whether that you're an art quilter, or you are way into shows, or you do charity quilting, you need to be with confidence say, yes, I can use this pattern as a common block, and it's mine. I can use it. Anyone can use it. Or if you are a pattern maker, like making sure you register your works. Understanding how the law works gives you more freedom to do whatever you want to do. And so again, we ran it was supposed to be 4 weeks, then it became 6 weeks because people wanted more time, and now we're meeting like once a month because we just like each other, and so we're continuing on. But we're going to do another one of those copyright workshops in February. And so I'm really excited. It's really fun. So yeah, it's to empower you. So these are some of the questions that happen with copyright. There's a lot of things in copyright that are not protected, and other things that are. And so that's really key to understand it. Also, if you're an art quilter, understanding how fair use works really broadens what you can do, and what the public domain is, and also moral rights. So there's a lot of times so in our group, we have a Facebook group called Just Wanna Quilt, which I would love for you all to join. We are a great community. We're super fun. Our only rule is kindness. We're pretty much anything else is good. But we have a lot of conversations about this stuff. Copyright is a economic right. It's an economic set of rights by a federal law made for big companies. It wasn't really designed for us regular people. And so I think there's after studying this for 3 years, I think there's a number of layers. And I think that as a community, we decide what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable outside of copyright. So there's a moral or ethical issue. It isn't that, well, I'm going to go to copyright jail, because there are people, but there are very few people that go to copyright jail. And So I think it's understanding how the system works, what the physics is, so you can be, oh, they're certified accountant, awesome. So yeah, so I think that it's understanding all these things in the context and when it matters. If you're making a, I don't know, a Harry Potter quilt for your grandson or your granddaughter, that really doesn't, for me, nobody cares. Warner Brothers doesn't care. They're not going to get upset that you've done weird things to make this thing. But if you start to sell it on Etsy, they might care. If you only sell 1 or 2 on Etsy, they're not going to care. But if you start to sell quite a bit, they're going to care a lot. And we saw that with the crochet and the Baby Yodas last fall, that those people who were making a lot of Baby Yodas very quickly were getting shut down. And so understanding commercial versus non-commercial, or also this other category of low commercial, what you can and can't do with licensed material, all these things are what we talk about in the copyright workshop. Again, if we had 1,000 hours, we had 4 more hours, I would tell you everything I possibly could, but I wanted to sort of expose you more. That was my thought with this talk. Okay, long arms. So I am super proud to be a dealer because Grace is awesome and it helps support our project. All of the money that we make goes back into our project and into supporting our work, so we no longer beg for money from the dean and other places. So it's super great. We are financially self-sufficient, which is rocking, plus the book sales. And also it gave me the opportunity to really understand what kind of questions come up. Ruler work is when Leah Day makes a pattern, does it can you use it in any kind of way? There's all kinds of questions that come up with copyright. Also with the automation, embroidery has those issues too. Right of attribution, if you quilt something for someone, do you get to have does your name get to appear as well in that show? And what if it wins? And what if you know that it's your quilting that really makes this thing? What kind of right of attribution should you be requesting? Also, who owns the copyright in that? So the copyright is different than the object. So someone can own the quilt, but the copyright itself, the copyright in that quilting may be yours. And what does that mean exactly? Wholesale costs. Looking at how to cut your costs if you're selling things, and you all know that, but thinking about sort of what relationships you want to have with what companies and who. So I'm way into Wonderful right now and their pre-filled bobbins, because I never have a problem with tension on the Grace Company's frames when I do that, but every time I change it to other things, as Nate knows from me, he came to the house once when he was in town and he was like, "You're a disaster." So he made me all better and it was all really great and it was very, very, very sweet. But I'm really careful in terms of I just like the bobbins. So again, if I have a company and I am selling or doing things, can I get that wholesale versus paying retail? And if you're sewing as much as you are and sewing for others, you want to cut your costs down. And then finally, insurance, working with your insurance company, seeing if you need other things, E&O insurance, other questions about what you're doing, also ensuring the work that you're doing in terms of when you're mailing it and other things like that. All right, any questions on that? There's more. I'm going to jam as much information into your head as possible in this hour. Okay. All right, so the Quilting Army, come to our Facebook group. We're talking about these issues, and they're super smart. And it's a group of everybody. So it's regular quilters, charity quilters, art quilters, industry people, famous people, all kinds of people. And we have a lot of really good conversations about just this stuff. We also talk about cats or babies or quilting or whatever. So, we're regular, it's not just business and copyright all the time, but this is a place to come and ask your questions. And we're starting to really have people come to us. We used to be out in other groups chatting, but it felt like we were kind of not battling, but trying to explain things. And it's better for you to come and ask a question in our group and be part of our group. Somebody asked a question about Etsy and having a pattern, and can I sell if I buy a pattern, can I sell it on Etsy? That is a great question to ask our group, because you're going to get so many responses, 30 responses, and you're going to start to see, oh yeah, this is that particular answer, and you get a chorus of answers. Also, a lot of them have been through the copyright workshop and are training to be our liaisons, so they're working on their that there. Okay, and then your thoughts about your questions. So that's something else. Okay, so searching out resources. So this is my beware. So one of the things we did last year in my IP and entrepreneurship class was we looked to see what people were actually teaching people and how careful they were. So here's my critique. The NOLO books, NOLO, are good, but they don't go far enough. They don't really help you sometimes actually do stuff, although they're a really good resource. I mean, I would say they're the best resource we found. There are a lot of people online right now that are huge scammers when it comes to trademark. They are claiming you have to pay $100, $500, $1,500. And what it basically comes down to is they put a front end over a government website. This is really a problem. We also see once you register your company with the state, you will suddenly get a ton of email and a ton of mail, snail mail. Most of these are scams. So also anybody who's going to charge you a lot for a course, $1,500, $500, $8,000, I would start to really look at who they are. So we see a lot of people putting themselves out. It's like I worked as an actor, so I looked really, yeah, I still do. I'm old, but when I was about 19, I looked about 12 years old. So I worked professionally as an actor while I was doing my my undergrad and graduate work at UCLA in legitimate, not illegitimate, real things. Like every time I said it to students, they're like, "Oh, what kind of movies?" So everybody in LA wanted to be an actor, and everybody thought they could be an actor. I feel like that happens with the business and the legal training. You should not be getting legal advice for someone who's not been to law school. Anywhere, online, anywhere, period. That's why you go for 3 years to law school and have to take an exam. And in my case, I had to write for 10 years to be a professor. We're vetted. We're vetted by a very aggressive system that tells you who you are and tells you, the consumer, who we are. You should not be saying to your friend, what's the answer, and then just relying on it. So be careful. There's a lot of people out there that claim that they are professionals, that are business people, because they have a business or because they start talking about having a business. I'd be really careful and I'd look into them. How successful are they? How many people on social media have they done what they say that they tell you to do? I've worked really hard in my career to always do it and not just talk about it. And when I fail or succeed, like we have this one business that no matter what we do, it never makes money. I don't know why. It just never makes money. And so we laugh about that it's like we spent so much time and energy on this one little, maybe it's made $50,000, but it should have made like millions, and it never has. So I would say be careful of who you're getting trained from. Really recognize what their value is and who they are, and don't just because they say they're a business person, it's like an actor. Just be careful. Don't throw your money out. And also they say really dumb things that make you feel like you can't do anything. None of this is hard. None of this is hard. My 17-year-old has a business up and running. None of it's hard, okay? And look to their success. That would be my other things. Make sure, look to their success and see what they're teaching you and does it work. If they're saying that you need to do this to get a number of followers, do they do it and does it work? That's your best bet, right? So for me, I've never been really about like big followings and any of those things. That's not really where we're at. We're at sort of quality people who want to learn stuff. But if that's what you want, if you want a big following, if you want like 40,000 or 400,000, you need to go and talk with someone who did that, right? Seth Heckler at Quilting on a Budget. Somehow that guy's magic. Every time he does anything, he gets like 40,000 followers in like seconds. So you have to think about like why that is. Be smart about it. Don't just throw your money at things. Okay. All right. None of this is hard. It's not hard. It's just like, you just have to do it. And it's fun. Think fun. Think fun. Fun. It's all fun. The law stuff is fun. The business stuff is fun. It's empowering. It's insanely awesome. Oh, goodness. Okay. It's not moving forward again. What did I do wrong? We're just stuck on fun. The machine is like, I just want fun. Okay. Dream smart. Be smart about it. Be practical. Be smart. Build. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to have a 5-year plan. Just start to think about what you want to do. Also, do your homework, understand the market, understand what you're doing. Not hard to do. Just start to think about it. Start to think that way. There's a thing called the lean model and minimum viable product, or MVP. It means, like, let's say you want to start an Etsy shop, make one thing or make two things, put it out and see if people buy it. Don't make 500 baby hats that suddenly nobody wants your baby hats. So test the market, do a little bit. You don't have to put it all that company that I said doesn't. I did exactly the opposite. We worked for 10 years coding every country in the world, and it turns out nobody really needs every country in the world coded for copyright. So I did everything wrong with that company, but in some way, and I was such a baby when we did it, but it was good. I mean, it was good for me. I learned from it, but just minimum viable product. You don't have to make up a whole bunch of stuff. Customer validation. So we see this all the time. So you put up an image on Instagram and someone goes, "Oh, I love that. Can I buy one?" Instagram's a great place for that. You say, "Yeah, sure." Customer validation. What you're selling is what they want. You can do that immediately. You can even do that before you have a company, right? You can start to sell and say, "Oh, interesting." Ella says, "I think law is fun." Ella, I think we should be friends. I think that's good. Seek out experts. Seek out me. Seek out others. Vet your expert. You have to be an expert. Also friends, other people. And also experts can come from other companies, other areas, woodworking or oil and gas or whatever. You can get lots of experience from lots of different people and lots of advice. This is your journey. You get to choose what you do. You get to choose how much time you spend. You get to choose to see how much it overwhelms your life. You can stop it if you want to. If you decide that you don't like it, you don't have to do it. And I would encourage you to not think of this as like, I'm going to quit my job. The most successful people that I am seeing build stuff up and then eventually had to quit their job because it was so successful they couldn't do anything else. Don't think of this as I need to replace. So like, I'm a law professor. Law professors make decent, we're paid well. I never saw this as like, well, if only I can quit my law professor job. No, that's kind of who I am. That's part of who I am. You're a scientist and you also quilt. People like that. Oh, wow, she's a scientist and she quilts? That's so cool. So potentially could be extra money or extra, if you're art quilter, extra accolades or whatever it is. But you get to decide, and you shouldn't feel the pressure that you have to be full-time to be legitimate. You're legitimate no matter what you're doing. If you never sell anything, if you never make a company, if you quilt for your grandkids or you quilt for your kid I don't quilt for anybody but me at this moment. I quilt for the book. So I don't know. I just feel really shy about my work. That's okay. You get to decide. You get to make your own road and make your own decisions. And nobody should tell you different. So own it. Okay, so what do I do? Well, I teach that. All I do is I teach. I'm a professional teacher. For the quilting industry, I have the most fun when I'm in class with you. It's like it renews my soul and spirit. So this is my my service. This is not my. I mean, I get paid for it sometimes, but this is sort of to empower you and to do all that. It's also about community and in empowering people to know the law makes me super happy. Because then you see sort of all the things they're doing, and it's insanely great. Okay, so here's my weird dream. This is what I already said. Now we're at this place. We are making money. We are building bigger. We're hopefully going to have a full-time employee at some point soon. And we're helping people achieve their dreams, which is what my IP and entrepreneurship class is going to do in the spring. And I keep just doing it my own way. And we have extra money, and we can help others and do other things. And we're thinking of adopting another kid. So I don't know, it's just kind of, it's given me more freedom, and that makes me super happy. And I keep buying bolts of fabric for my projects, which makes me super happy. So yeah, so that's really where we are. So how to find us, come join our Facebook group. The books, if you're interested in the books, are at Just Wanna Books. You'll see the ones that we're up and coming. We'll have Just Wanna Longarm soon, Just Wanna Contract. I don't know. It's been a really fun ride. These are some of that. We're also doing the copyright camp. Copyright camp, so much fun. If you want to have fun, come to camp. One day we're going to have it at Tulane when we can all be back together and have you all stay in the dorms. It will be so insane. We have this dream of copyright camp, in this crazy dorms. And then, of course, special thanks to Grace. Grace, you all make my life so much better, and I am so glad to be giving back and being here on this in this environment. You were there, and you were sweet to me when I had no friends at that first quilt market, and I was just playing with your system over and over again. You were kind when I started to quilt, and when you suggested that we be a dealer, and being a dealer changed so much and helped us understand what that meant to be a dealer. And we did it our own way. We're not like a traditional dealer. We don't, if you're interested in a Grace machine, what we've done is we found that we just talk with people. We don't have a whole list online anymore. We took it down because we really want to, it's about community and help and being part of our world and helping you get what you need. And I don't know, it's just been really great. So we like no sell. We're like there's not a low sell or high, we're like so unaggressive, but that's worked for us. And we're selling machines all the time. So that's it. But Grace, seriously, and your machines, you help people build dreams. Your machines are affordable and they're fun, and you can do it in little bits. You don't have to buy it all at once. And I don't think there's any other company that I would want to be working with, because I just feel like you let anybody dream and anybody have a long arm. And it's all manageable and doable, even the domestic machine on the Q Zone. It's amazing. So that's where I'm going to stop.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being able to join us today. It was absolutely wonderful. Maybe if you can put back up your links one more time, and then we'll post those as we rerun the videos. And again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the wonderful things you've said about our business and our products. And we've just really enjoyed being able to have you part of our program today.
And do come join Just Want to Quilt. Share the things that you brought. I realized that you couldn't share it. And we do have a coupon code for you if you want to do the copyright camp. I think it's Grace 2020, and then I'll give you 50% off. So it'll be like $50 for you to get a book and 5 weeks of classes and stuff. So if that's something that interests you, so I can give that to Nate. And thank you for having me. It's really fun. And also, if you join our Facebook group, the Quilting Army will have one as well. And I will just I give out a lot of coupons. So the goal is not, we like money.
We'll go ahead and we can put that up there.
But we always have fun so that you can really get to the info. Okay. Thank you. It's fun to be here, and thank you for inviting me and being part of this. I think this is great.